Sometimes a new story breaks and it's completely, totally unexpected and also something that is just very, very exciting. And we're talking about something exactly like that. Many years ago, I came close to buying a Pebble smartwatch, but for whatever reason, I just didn't go that way. In fact, I think I bought a Fitbit instead. Very, very close for me, but I always really wanted to try one. They did so many things that I thought were quite interesting. The e-ink screen, the physical buttons, really just they had like their own vibe that I thought was really cool. But unfortunately, Pebble has been gone for quite some time. They got bought out by Fitbit, and then Fitbit got bought out by Google. But today, shockingly, we have word that Pebble is actually coming back. Now, obviously, I broke all this down in my own post here on shanecraig.tech, but this is coming from a blog post from Eric
Migicovsky.
Eric Migicovsky, who, if you don't know, actually founded the smartwatch company Pebble, as well as the messaging company Beeper, which I actually didn't know about. So Eric sort of paints this interesting picture. He says he still wears his Pebble every day, 10 years on, and he says you'd think that by now someone would have sort of picked up the mantle that Pebble started to do something like Pebble, but no one has. He gives sort of a core set of features that he wants out of a smartwatch, and I gotta be honest with you, when I read what he's sort of pitching, what he wants from a smartwatch, it's basically what I want from a smartwatch as well. I love an always-on e-paper screen. That is such a great idea for a smartwatch because with a normal screen, you go outside, the sun is very bright, and then your OLED screen is fighting back against that brightness. With an e-paper screen, that brightness only helps you. It only makes it easier to see. This is something kind of like what the TicWatch line of phones, smartwatches, have done with their dual layer display. Long battery life. Using an e-paper screen is going to extend that battery life. Of course, the operating system is going to matter a lot. Pebble's typically 5, 6, 7 days on a charge. Fantastic, simple, and beautiful user experience around a core set of features I use regularly: telling time, notifications, music control, alarms, weather, calendar, sleep, and step tracking. That is basically the only thing I use my smartwatch for. I know I can install other applications. I've done so, but I just don't use them. I come back to just these things. Buttons, physical buttons to play, pause, skip music without looking at the screen. I love that. I like to use my smartwatch to skip around on YouTube Music, but you have to look down at it. You've got the little notification at the bottom, you tap, and then you can do your thing. Just being able to reach down without looking and hitting a button to play, pause, skip seems really smart to me. And I love the idea of it being hackable. Apparently, you can't even write your own watch faces for an Apple Watch. That's wild. There were 16,000 watch faces in the Pebble store. That is fantastic. I love it. Here's the problem, though. It's really hard to just make a smartwatch. Eric actually says in this blog post that PebbleOS took dozens of engineers over 4 years to build. Starting from scratch is just not really a possibility. So what did Eric do? And this, I think, is part of the story, should not go overlooked. It's very, very cool. He asked some friends at Google, which, by the way, like I mentioned, Google owns Fitbit. Fitbit owned Pebble there at the end, so there you go. He asked if they could open source PebbleOS so that it could be used by whoever wants to use it at that point. And shockingly, Google had no reason to do this, but they did it anyways. They said yes. So over the last year, a team inside Google has been working on this, and today is the day. The source code for PebbleOS is now available at github.com/Google/Pebble. This is very, very cool. Google catches a lot of flack, right? And sometimes it's very, very warranted, but this is a really interesting and cool thing that they did, which is going to enable Eric and a small team to do exactly what I think a lot of us never thought could possibly happen, and that is make a new Pebble watch. So with talk of a new watch coming, I think it's important to take a moment and look back into the past. What kind of led to the downfall of Pebble to begin with? And I kind of tried to distill it down into about a paragraph. their base initially was in this techie, geeky, hacker demographic. People like myself, and if you're watching this video, very likely people like you. That's a cool place to start. But the problem is, if you want to grow the business, you do need to sort of expand things outwardly, get into new demographics. And that's what they tried to do, but they didn't really seem to know how to do it. There were things that people loved about these watches, right? The battery life, the e-ink, the buttons, all that stuff was very, very cool. The fact that they tried to shift away from their initial core mission statement and they tried to kind of become like a fitness band, and they were not, as Eric has said in his blog post, they were not a fitness company. It felt like they had this little core idea that maybe just was never meant to be any bigger than it was. It maybe wasn't meant to take over the world. It was meant to be a niche product, and they tried to make it bigger than a niche product. And by doing that, they lost their core mission and they lost their customers. And so to sort of fight back against that, to not repeat those mistakes, says they're keeping things simple. Lessons were learned last time, building a small, narrowly focused company to make these watches. Not going to be raising money from investors, hiring a big team, sustainability, cool gadgets, and that's it. Tailor to that initial audience, and don't worry about trying to pull people off of their Apple Watch. You aren't going to do it. You aren't going to do it. So trying is only going to hurt your core product. And because they're going to get to use the same old Pebble operating system, this new thing will be compatible with all the Pebble apps and watch faces. So thousands and thousands of ready-made faces and apps, everything's all going to be right there, ready to go. And obviously, we have absolutely no timetable on something like this. This is all very, very early on. Project is probably just kind of getting off the ground, but still, it is very, very interesting to me, and I think that it is quite cool. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you own a Pebble smartwatch? Would you be interested in going back to one in 2025, maybe 2026? Who knows when this thing's actually going to launch? Probably not this year. Probably maybe next year, maybe the year after. Who knows? We don't really know anything at this point, but would you be interested in switching back to one? What did you miss from it? Do you like what you're seeing? Etc., etc. Guys, subscribe for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.